Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the February 17th, 2014 meeting to order. And first on our agenda, we are privileged to have Joy Conley and Austin Hooten here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Joy and Austin.
Please join us in the salute to the American flag. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Oh, not Joy and Austin. Okay. All right, so are you both fifth graders at Richmond?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Okay. How about we start, Joy? We'll start with you. How's that? Who's your teacher? Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
My teacher is Miss Zacharias.
Okay. What do you like to do? What's your favorite subject?
My favorite subject is social studies.
Social studies. Very nice. Very nice. And what do you like to do when you're not at school?
I do dance and soccer.
Dance and
That's
soccer.
what I love to do.
So do you have anyone that can help you with your soccer?
Yes, Tammy Long coaches me. I play for the Apex 01 Black team for U13 here in Stillwater, and my dad is the assistant coach for that.
Got it. Got it. All right. Well, I'm glad you're here. And actually, you know what? Joy, I'm not a bit surprised that social studies is her favorite subject, because Joy has actually already gotten involved in local government in the past. Do you remember a couple years ago? A couple years ago, Ms. Conley wrote me a letter. And she asked about sidewalks and how can we get more sidewalks in neighborhoods. And I wrote her a letter back that said, thank you, and we talked about sidewalks and told her to keep being involved and trying to make Stillwater better. So anyway, thank you very much for that letter, and I just wanted you to know that I still have it and remember that. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Austin, let's hear a little about you. Who's your teacher?
Miss Zacharias.
Ah, same class, okay. Does Joy behave? Most of the time.
Tell everything.
What's your favorite subject?
Reading.
Reading, okay. And what do you like to do?
I do public speaking, I show sheep, and I play football.
Wonderful. Public speaking. No wonder this went so smoothly. We've got someone that's already involved and someone that's involved in public speaking. So, public speaking, is that like in contests?
Yeah, like speech contests.
Speech contests? And so what kind of speeches? Or what groups?
There's novice, intermediate, and senior, I think.
Okay, and your parents seem to be kind of proud about something. Why don't you share with us what they're proud about?
This year was my first year to give public speaking speeches, and I won first at state.
Very nice, very nice. Well, that is very impressive. You guys are wonderful examples of the great students we have in our school system, and I greatly appreciate, and the whole council appreciates you guys being here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So anyway, thank you very much, and I've got a little something for you, so I'll meet you right down here. Okay, we do have a proclamation this evening. Mr. Middlestead, would you like to join me? Emergency management. I was going to say it's that time of year, but it's always that time of year, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, we've got Kirk Middlestead, the Emergency Emergency Operations Manager.
Right.
Titles. Okay. Whereas the climate of Stillwater is conducive to the development of natural and possibly man-made emergencies and disasters, and whereas the citizens of Stillwater are adversely affected by such emergencies and disasters, and whereas it is vital that we further our awareness of the dangers of such disasters and the protective measures citizens can take in the event of such conditions, And whereas Oklahoma emergency managers are responsible for encouraging and assisting state and local officials to plan adequately for and respond effectively to such emergencies and disasters. And whereas Oklahoma emergency managers follow a comprehensive emergency management plan involving preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation areas. And whereas the Oklahoma Emergency Management Association should be commended for its continued diligence and mission to the citizens of Oklahoma. Now therefore, I, John Bartley, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim February 23rd to March 1st, 2014 as Oklahoma Emergency Management Week in the City of Stillwater, Oklahoma, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Mr. Merced, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little about what you've got going on.
Well, it's, as you said, it's that time of the year. We're getting ready and trying to get everybody prepared for severe weather. This is the start of our big season. And plug for our webpage. We have preparedness information for everybody to look at on the stillwater.org emergency management page. And hopefully everybody will get prepared. We won't have too much problems this year.
I hope not. And you guys have a great, you're using social media
Right.
in a lot of ways to help get information out before and during.
Right.
So-
We have a web page. We also have a Facebook page and a Twitter feed that we have a lot of followers on.
That's wonderful.
So,
Well, thank you
keep
guys
doing
very
well.
much for all the work you do.
Thank you. Appreciate it. See, thanks.
Okay, and that'll take us down to the consent docket. We do have one item on the consent docket, meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2014.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. And that is approved 5-0. That'll take us down to public hearings, and our first public hearing is to receive comment regarding a request for a map amendment rezoning property addressed as 1202 South Duck from RSS to O Office. We have good notice on this?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Dennison.
Good evening, Paula Dennison, Development Services. The request before you this evening is, as the mayor indicated, a map amendment to rezone the property located at 1202 South Duck. This is the property outlined in red. It is currently RSS, which is the small lot single-family zoning district, and the request is to rezone it to O or office. The proximity, 12th is running east and west, and you can see Duck Street. This is the library over here, almost in the opposite corner, the northeast corner. There's the library. This is the facility that formerly known as the Girl Scout Lodge. It's now, I just think the Lodge is what it's called now. So there are some office-type uses along the vicinity, but the request is for this solitary piece of property. And our findings, it is consistent. The requested O or office zoning is consistent with our new comprehensive plan, with the expected growth patterns adjacent to 12th Avenue. We've seen a lot of expanded growth and uses along 12th Avenue. And this property is adjacent to a residential neighborhood. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Questions for Ms. Dennison right now?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will open up the public hearing, and we do not have any requests to speak in favor or against, so we will close the public hearing. Ms. Dennison, is there a Planning Commission recommendation?
Yes, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dennison?
Not this time, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion on Planning Commission's recommendation?
I will move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve Planning Commission recommendation. And that is approved 5-0. That'll take us down to our second public hearing. Comments regarding a request for map amendment rezoning property addresses 1530 West 6th and 521, 523, 525 South Walnut from RMU to RMI.
Again, Paula Dennison in Development Services. This request is actually a downzoning. Those are fairly unusual around here in Stillwater. This is a downzoning. As you can see, 6th Avenue is on the south side of this property, and it's bound on the east by Pine and the west by Walnut. It's the area in green that's outlined in red. And 2012, that is a few years ago now, isn't it? In 2012, the property owners had a proposal for this property, so they rezoned it to RMU, which is the multifamily urban density that we have for multifamily. They have since scrapped those plans and come in with plans that aren't as dense, so their request is actually to downzone the property from RMU to the RMI, which is multifamily intermediate. We have a couple of multifamily zoning districts. This is about the middle one, the intermediate. So it's the downzoning from RMU to RMI. It is consistent with our new comp plan. Again, it's consistent with the expected growth patterns of the area, and it is less intense than the RMU zoning district. Again, happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Why would they be, I assume they could still build at the lower density with what they have authority to do now.
Yes, they can. There are some differences in the setbacks as well that they took into consideration with their new plan. So this helps
What are those setback differences?
with all of their planning for what they're wanting to do at this time.
But the setback, tell me about the setback.
I would have to get the actual.
It's just unusual. I don't remember ever hearing a step down in zoning.
It is the greatest impact is on side yards on the property. In the RMI, which they're requesting, they are allowed to go as close as 5 feet to side property lines. In the RMU, they have to maintain a minimum of 15 feet. So
Well, that's what they're doing.
the more dense, you can have more units, but usually it's taller that you go to keep that air, light, everything flowing between the buildings. This allows greater use of their actual footprint on the property downzoning.
Going to 5 feet setback. Gotcha.
Yeah, from 5 to 15.
And on the map, it looked like the north and the east of the property was still bordered by RMU, so that would still have the 15 on that property if it were to be rebuilt.
Actually, I believe this gold here, that RMU is supposed to be on the property in question. The rest of this is RTM,
RTM,
which is 2 and 3 family residential.
lowest multifamily density.
Yes. So this will be the highest dense zoning in the
Brings the zoning back
immediate
closer
area.
to the surrounding.
Yes, it does.
Questions for Ms. Dennison? Okay. Have good notice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we will open up the public hearing. We do have one request from Kelly Harris to speak.
Good evening, Kelly Harris with Keystone Engineering, located at 923 South Lowry, here representing the owners tonight. Basically, they had proposed a larger structure to utilize the more dense property. We've since, again, scrapped that and narrowed it down to a smaller structure, but there's going to be 2 of them. And so in order to put some space between those 2 buildings, we would like to utilize the larger setback in the lower zoning. So that's what it comes down to. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Not at this time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do not have any other requests to speak in favor or against, so we'll close the public hearing. And Ms. Dennison, do you have a planning commission recommendation?
Yes, their recommendation is to approve the request.
questions, or is there a motion on this recommendation?
Move we accept the recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second to approve Planning Commission recommendation. And that is approved 5-0. Take us down to our third public hearing. Map amendment rezoning property addresses 402 and 410 South Hester and 711 West 4th Avenue from RMI to high rise.
Okay, staying in somewhat the same area. On the map, you can see that the brown is already zoned high-rise. These two separate parcels, they adjoin the high-rise district, but they do not adjoin each other. They are the parcels that are requesting this rezoning to high-rise. The remaining parcel in between, the folks who are proposing development in the high-rise zoning district are still in conversation about any acquisition of that property. If they do acquire it, it of course will have to be coming in for a rezoning if they choose to include it. But for the sake of these two parcels, they are requesting the high-rise zoning. Again, it's consistent with our new comprehensive plan, the growth patterns in the area. It's already adjacent to the high-rise zoning as indicated. And bearings, north side of the property is 4th and the east side is Hester. This is in our corridor redevelopment area where we have and encourage the high-rise zoning districts. Be happy to answer any questions.
Motion?
Not at this time, sir.
Just, Paul, I have to pick at you. Why would those, going back to the map, did the C3 study not recommend that as high density at the max? What was the issue at that point? Do you remember?
We do have it recommended for high in the comp plan. It's just at the time that development was proposed for the properties, the applicant did not have these two properties.
Okay.
So they were planning their proposal based solely on what you see existing high-rise zoning district.
Okay.
Now they've come in and acquired the additional properties and want to include them in the development.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay. Do we have good notice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we will open up the public hearing. We do have one request. And that's also from Ms. Harris.
Good evening, Kelly Harris with Keystone Engineering, located at 923 South Lowry. Here to answer any questions. Paula did a really good job explaining the whole situation. Any other questions?
Not at this time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so no other requests, so we will close the public hearing. Do you have a recommendation for us?
Planning Commission recommends approval of the request.
Any questions on this one?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Motion and a second to approve Planning Commission recommendation. And that is approved 5-0. Takes us down to our fourth public hearing. Closing of a portion of utility easement on property address as 519 South Jardeau.
This is a little bit of an unusual request as to the why the closing. As you can see, all of the green out on this property, this is the Vintage development. It's an apartment development on Jardeau, just north of 6th. And the green are easements that were dedicated at the time, Phase 1, and you can see the built portion of this development was Phase 1. The vacant portion is proposed to be Phase 2, but they went ahead and they dedicated the easements for the existing utilities they needed at the time and the extension of those utilities to accommodate Phase 2. When the developer came in to put a building in this location, because of the setbacks and their building plan that they had, they were encroaching into this portion of the utility easement. There are no easements in there at the current time, and there's not intended to be any easements based on their current plan for Phase 2
You mean
of the development.
utilities?
Actual utilities. Yes, actual utilities. It's all clear, and the proposal is to keep it all clear. So they have come in and request to close this portion of the easements located on the Vintage property. It does allow for the proposed building, and again, there are no utilities located within the existing easement.
Any questions? Okay. Do we have good notice?
Yes, sir.
All right, good notice. We don't have any requests, so we'll open the public hearing, and then we'll close the public hearing. Ms. Dennison?
Staff does recommend that approval be granted for this closing of a portion of a general utility easement at 519 South Jardo.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve staff recommendation. And that is approved 5-0. Thank you. On the fifth, the staff memo was asking to dismiss, so we don't need any action on that, do we?
sir.
Didn't think so, just making sure. Okay, that's going to take us down. Mr. Dorman, do you have anything for us?
Nothing to report tonight, sir.
Mr. Galloway?
Nothing further this evening?
Okay. Counselors?
I might just mention that the university had a little bit of a dust-up on Thursday with a closing of the multimodal for a period of time. Just want to thank all the other agencies in Stillwater and the county and federal officials that helped coordinate. It was a great indication that our agencies work together well, and the university appreciates their help and assistance in the deal. So I want to just express that publicly.
For sharing that. Anything else?
Loving the spring weather.
Good stuff. Welcome back, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Hate to miss all the meetings that I missed. I had almost perfect attendance until a little illness showed up in the
We're glad you're back for
picture.
tonight's
So,
meeting.
Here, here.
and I think I can be back before the April election is over with. So
Awesome.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Okay, and then the only things I have, I will actually, we've got radio tomorrow, KSPI at 8:15, and I will be the guest tomorrow on that, and then I also will be on the radio on Triple Play on Wednesday at 7 a.m. So plenty of time for us to talk about what's going on. Okay, anything for upcoming meetings?
Nothing this time, man.
I just want to share, next Monday is our study session, and we'll be doing a visioning session. And so, study session with that and visioning, so counselors, be rolling through your brain, what we're going to be talking about, what we want to see doing. So we'll talk about that next Monday.
Will that be out west of town?
It's out on the west side where we had before, with Holiday Inn conference room. And it's a good time to think over the comments that we've been receiving from citizens and public during the public input week. Because it's, even though it's your ongoing long-term visioning session, we do want to concentrate on your visioning and ideas for the coming year. Give staff some really good guidance in putting a draft budget together. So we'll probably be mentioning the public input.
And that is open to the public, correct?
Yes, it's open to the public.
Definitely, definitely. Okay.
5:30 Holiday Inn next Monday?
Yes.
Okay, that'll take us down. We do have one appointment this evening for the Stillwater Medical Center Authority, and I would nominate Dan Duncan for reappointment.
Second.
Nomination and a second from Mr. Duncan. And that is approved 5-0. Nothing further on City Council agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn City Council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and multiple seconds to adjourn City Council.
It was mine.
And that is approved 5-0. City Council is adjourned, and we will call to order the Stillwater Utility Authority meeting for February 17th, 2014. We have 3 items on the agenda: approval of minutes, and then B and C, the different water issues. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent docket?
Item B, please.
Okay, take
Item
item B off. Anything else?
Motion to approve the consent docket minus
Second.
item B.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent minus B in a second.
Excuse me.
And that is approved 5-0. That'll take us down, and let's talk about item B. Is that Mr. Blankenship, who's... Pass that down to the clerk for me, please.
Good evening. Bill Millis, Acting Water Utilities Director, and Eric Flighty, Construction Program Manager.
Wonderful.
Any questions?
Trustee Weaver.
Let's just hear about the project. I think the public's interested in what we're doing out there.
Okay. All right, good evening, trustees. Tonight I'm here to request authorizations for construction of the Perkins Road Booster Pump Station. I understand this is a long time coming, but with great success and working through it, we're finally to that point. As you recall, the function of this station is critical for us to make utilization of the 56th Street Tower to open it up and service our customers in the southwest zone. Final design was completed towards the end of last year. We closed out the real estate actions to buy the piece of real estate to put the new station on in January. So we did get it out for bid. Bids were opened on January 27th. We had 5 bidders. 3 of the bids were very close, which is a good indication that we had exceptional plans and specifications. And with them tight bids, the parent low bidder was Crossland Heavy Contractors, both qualified and capable, and the recommendation of the engineer record.
Have they done work for us before?
No.
They have.
They have?
For water utilities. I'm not sure if they're, all right, at the water treatment plant.
Okay.
I'm not sure with any other entities of the city, but they have definitely for water utilities, and that's been in the past year here.
Good.
And they performed, well, they did good, so no issues there. There's 3 aspects to my request tonight. One, of course, is to award the bid and authorizations for construction. A second piece is for what we call application engineering. With the nature of this booster pump station, there's some very technical kind of automation, we'll say, aspects to it that provides for human interface on a control module, basically a monitor that allows us to do programming and control it either from the station right there at site, but also to connect it with our water treatment plant so our operators out there can manage the whole system. That application engineering is, again, very specialized, so we'd like to turnkey that and give that to our engineer record, to Garber, and let's make them own their design and make it function, work, and tune it, properly for us. So that's the second aspect, and then the third aspect is to make the request for construction inspection of the project, that being more of the structural, civil aspects of the project. So tonight, with that, as you can tell here from the total authorization that's requested is $1,450,800 to complete the project. That includes funding for all 3 of those aspects for the construction, plus 10% for the application engineering and for the inspection. Authorization of this and award of this will not impact our current water capital budget. We do have programming forecasted and budgeted in there for this project. So on that, there's 5 recommendations you can see on the report. Number 1, award the bid to Crossland Heavy Contractors in the amount of $1,228,000. Authorize staff and the general manager to execute the construction management or construction contract. Number 3, authorize construction expenditures up to $1,350,800, which is that bid price plus a 10% contingency. Number 4 is authorize staff to execute an amendment to Garber, the engineer of record, for the professional services to execute the application engineering in the amount of $55,000. And then last, the authorization for the inspection services in the amount of $45,000.
Thank you.
The last 2, the turnkey on the
application
The
engineering.
the application and then the inspection, were those part of the original project? I mean, the original proposals, when we were crunching through the numbers and engineers, were those two elements planned for before, or are they just now coming up?
No, well, let me explain it, I guess, this way. It's something we realized that was going to be required, but we did not want to include in their engineering design package at that time. We wanted to wait till we got construction design completed so we could actually see what the magnitude and what the requirement for that specialized construction phase support would be for programming the technical equipment. So we were aware of it. We just did not want to include it at that time. It was part of construction phase, so we waited
Wasn't
until
included
then.
in the original contract, but it was a part of our estimated overall cost early on. We knew we would have these costs.
Yes, yes, we just did not include it
It wasn't
contractually.
in the contract.
Okay.
And same on the inspection services.
Because you leave that option open, we may have chosen some other alternative way to do those.
That's true, and we could have looked at having the contractor do it, and that was a decision point we made as a water utility staff to see if we wanted to put that responsibility and burden on the contractor. But again, typically contractors they're good at the civil structure. For something very technical like this, we decided to put it on our engineer record who has, let's make them own their product, so their design.
Any other questions?
Have we, do we have an agreement with District 3 to pump water yet?
No. This is separate.
I have followed this project since the day I came on the council, and I think staff knows that I have had great difficulty with this project. I think the funds would have been much better used if we'd have worked on the Western Road project, and based on everything that you can build that, we still got to build a water line over to, if we can't do it through District 3, and there's no guarantee we're ever going to get that. We've worked on it 6 years and haven't got anything yet. So I'm a little concerned is a better word. Not that I'm for not getting water to Southwest, but I don't think we have all of our homework done before we enter in and start spending money. And that's where I am. I cannot personally, as a councilman, vote for this.
Trustee Hopkins, let me, I guess, add with this, and part of the paragraph to this report includes a statement on that Western Road water line. From go, we've understood that for this pump station to provide any use for us, we must have that 18-inch water line to connect the 56th tower to our existing system to service our customers. So both of these are a pair, separate projects, but one is for the most part, you can't have one without the other to be a benefit for us. So the status of that project right now is it is still in design. We are hopeful that the real estate actions will be completed efficiently, that we'll have good luck on that and working with our citizens along that alignment. And if that does happen, we should have no problem getting that water line completed right there at the same time that this pump station's completed. So when we do fire it up, it's going to fill the tower, and the tower is going to drain and service our customers. So,
And this report talked about that estimated date would be September of this year.
yes, Mayor.
That will have water coming back from the tower into the water line on 44th or wherever we're tying in.
Yes, that's our complete intent here. Again, this is contingent
I know it's
upon
our intent.
real estate transactions that need to be made and closed out for that western alignment, that western water line road alignment.
But
So if things go
we move
smoothly
as
there.
slow on getting water to the tower, which we've been working on 6 years, how you going to get it from the tower back when you don't have it from the pump station to the tower?
I'm not sure I understand what you're
We
asking.
don't have an agreement to use a line to get to the tower. That's what you've told me.
Well, and the one thing we do have in our favor is that this pump station and this line will be the sole source for District 3 to fill the tower for their use. So if we're not able to fill the tower for our use, neither is District 3. So they would have no practical, and we've discussed it, they have no practical reason for denying us access because that's their only access to fill the tower. So when the tower is full,
I
We already
understand.
have an agreement, we have the right to use water out of the tower because we own half the tower.
I understand all that, but if we're as slow as getting permission as we have been in the last 6 years,
Well, that,
somebody ought to be concerned about it.
Yeah.
we don't have the kind of permissions, the delay on that was not with the landowners and right-of-way. The only issue we have on the 44th line is right-of-way acquisition, is that correct?
Correct. We're at,
We don't have
to
any
do the,
interagency
to do the,
agreements,
to do the water line from the tower down to 44th, we are going to acquire our own easements, so that we would own those easements and the rights to do that, and so that we wouldn't have, we would basically control that entire water line from the tower to 44th. But from the pump station going to the tower, we'll have to go through the District 3 lines in order to get there. Currently, District 3 has a small pump station on South Perkins Road that they put there on a temporary basis so that they could fill the tower, and they did fill the tower at least a couple, if not 3 years ago, and have been using the tower for their system. We attempted to enter into or negotiate a formal agreement. Were unsuccessful in doing so and made the decision that we would go ahead and move forward with this pump station, knowing that that both parties would need this pump station in order to keep the tower full.
I'll ask one more technical question.
Okay.
It has also been my understanding that unless something has changed from the beginning, and I don't know, and I know I've missed a lot of meetings, but that we don't have enough capacity to fill the tower at maximum use.
With this pump station, it's my understanding that we will be able to fill the tower and keep the tower full.
Now, are you going through their 14-inch line?
We will be going down, continuing down Perkins Road to 56th and across 56th to the tower through their lines, yes.
But it's the size of the line that I understood would be our major problem with filling the tank.
The line between our system
I'll let-
and the
okay.
pump
Our
station.
system
There's a
and
question
the
about
pump
that
station.
at one point.
Oh, okay.
I'm just bringing up.
Okay, I'm with you. The line, the what we call the suction line or the feeder line to the pump station. And we actually made some design modifications so that we actually have two feeder lines going into the pump station. Originally, we had just one coming from South Perkins Road, but when we moved the pump station, we were able to now feed it from two directions, South Perkins Road and 32nd Avenue. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, that's right.
That resolved that volume issue.
Yes.
Well, but still, this pump station and the lines feeding to it, basically the system, will not provide enough water to serve the southwest zone. I mean, this is one piece of the southwest zone solution, but it's just one piece. It doesn't move enough water to provide water to all the areas that we know we've not been able to meet demand.
Trustee Weaver?
I've heard staff say, I thought it was a good report to hear about a piece of the project. As you say, there's a number of pieces that we need to get implemented. This is only one, and in and of itself doesn't solve our problem. I mean, I appreciate Councilor Hopkins' frustrations. We all want to get the water problem fixed, but the western line isn't ready for us to consider. You don't have the easements acquired. This is ready to go.
Yes.
And so it seems logical that we would take this step.
And even the western line is just one more piece.
Right.
That'll improve the situation, but it's not the total solution.
And that's understood by the trustees, that this element is not the solution. It is a part of it, but from what Trustee Hopkins was saying, it's one of those, tell me if I understood you correctly. One of your concerns with moving forward with this is we don't have the line from the tower back in ready, it's not dirt ready yet. Is that?
That's one, that will be something that, no, I understand getting the water from the tower back to town, that we have to spend money, we'll have to do that. My concern is that we have been working for over a year now. I mean, I'm laying it out, over a year just trying to get an agreement with our partners to the south to pump the water to the tower. And we don't have that yet.
Yeah, in fact,
You gotta get water to it before you can get water from it.
yeah, that's, we made the decision, or the decision was made that after multiple attempts to negotiate an agreement, unsuccessful attempts, that we would just go ahead and proceed.
I understand that, but I still represent the taxpayers and have a great deal of concern that I don't want us to make any mistakes again, and that's
Absolutely.
That's just an input.
There's certainly some potential risk there, and I think we evaluated that and felt like that it was because of the mutual benefits to both the district and to the city that we felt that it would be a calculated risk that we, of course, have some concerns about, but are, I guess, comfortable or confident enough to make this recommendation to proceed with the pump station.
What's the worst-case scenario if we don't get a negotiated contract?
The worst-case scenario, I guess the absolute worst-case scenario, is that the district closes their lines and we don't get water into the tower, neither do they.
And the solution to that would be?
Neither of us would have water in the tower.
That'd be an impact. How do we solve it to then get water to the tower?
We could try to negotiate an agreement with them, or we could build another line from the pump station. I guess that would probably be the absolute worst case scenario, is where we would have to build a line from the pump station to the tower.
But at the current time, District 3 is getting water to the pump station.
Yeah, they have a temporary pump station down on South Perkins. If you go south of where Boomer Road ties in, probably about a half mile down in a low area on the right-hand side, there's a small shed to the right, and that is a temporary pump station that they installed, I don't know, about maybe pushing 3 years ago.
And they own those easements and...
They once you get into their district, which is, well, I think their district is south of, maybe it's 48th in that area approximately. I don't know without looking at the maps. But once you get down into their district, they own the assets, the water lines that in that area.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. May I ask the city attorney, do you see any reason to believe that we are not going to be able to have a contract with the district?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think you got to go back to Dan's original answer, which is we're going to provide water to them from this pump station at a pressure level that will enable the water to go to the tower to be filled. So they'll be receiving the water from us at that pressure level. If they want to make an issue of it, then we can address that. But kind of like Dan said, their solution is to shut the water off. As I understood it, when the original agreement was made, it was always assumed that we were going to use their lines, and that's what I have been told by representatives of that body. And
if I may, I think that's probably why the lengthy negotiations were so difficult. When the decision was made by the city and the District 3 to jointly own a tower, a big investment by both parties. And I think their position has been the only way that would benefit them and us is for water to be pumped through their line. And I think that was assumed. And I think when we reached a point and said, well, let's memorialize that in the contract, I think it was difficult for them to see a need to do that. We'd already assumed that, and I think that's been a little bit of the difficulty. It's almost as like, well, don't you trust us? We've always agreed. Everything's been assumed. Everybody's going to jointly use the line.
Can I just add, would we have legal recourse?
yes, we would have
to that tower in the event that we didn't have an agreement?
Yes, and there are several collateral issues that were actually holding up the agreement. It was not the issue of going through the line. There were several things that were going on at the same time, and it's just been very difficult to get everybody on the same page. And so it's not actually this issue that is the problem, but they're not wanting to break the contract into different pieces and deal with separate issues on separate agreements. so we can only take what we can get.
But to my knowledge, Mr. Blankenship and Mr. Dormy, the one, in the entire series of negotiations, I don't recall any time when the district ever even mentioned the fact of potentially not opening the line to us.
That's my
And that's
understanding.
that is correct. They never indicated that.
Any intention
I mean,
to close the line.
right? No.
Well, where I'm coming from on this, and understand the potential risk. I mean, everything we do carries a potential risk to it. Am I off base in my thinking that new pump station can get a lot more water to that tower than the temporary? Good?
Correct. Significant, yes.
We get the line out of the tower back to our water supplies or our system.
Mm-hmm.
If they decide, you know what, we don't want to use the new pump station, you can't send water from the new pump station to the tower. We're going to keep using their temporary pump station. As soon as we have our new line open, that's not going to work for anybody.
Well, their temporary pump station connects on our side of the system.
Right.
So when our new pump station goes online, we are disconnecting their temporary pump station.
And so as soon as that new line from Tower to 44th Street comes online, even if the old pump station was on and there was absolute control out of our control,
Right.
that tower's dry because we're draining it.
We would drain
Yeah,
it much
right,
faster,
water.
much faster than that temporary pump station could
Making
fill
sure
it.
was thinking
But you
properly.
can't pump the water to the tower in one line and pump it from the tower in one line.
We're not.
Oh, that's what I
Yeah.
want to make sure we understand.
Yeah.
Just because we build a line from the tower back to 44th and hook it up, doesn't mean we get water to the pump station if we can't go through another pipe.
Right. When we're looking at the western pump station, that would be then a separate line to fill the tower. So that's part of the Water 2040
Right.
program. Is the pump station on Western will include a fill line, and
Within the same easements we're talking about
yes,
tonight?
yes, possibly.
Should be the
The
same.
same easements, the suction line and the fill line
To the
tower.
Western,
Uh-huh.
we're going to go with a single line
Oh, we're going to go with the single line.
to fill in and drain the
You want to step up and address that?
tower. Sure, along Western, there will be a single line, 18-inch line going from the tower south along Western to 44th to tie into our system. And that's this project that's under design right now. It'll be one line in and out, and then ultimately, when we build the Western Road pump station as part of the Water 2040 improvements, that line will be extended further south to the pump station, and then even on to about 6th and Pioneer.
But it's a separate line at that point. It's not the same line. You're building a new line when you come down Western to the water tower.
Yes.
You got to build a new line to get from the water tower back to 44
Yes, sir.
for purposes.
A new single line from the tower to 44th and Western.
Assuming there's getting water to the tower. You can build a line. Okay, I'll shut up.
That line will allow water to come out of the tower and to feed parts of the southern part of
I
Stillwater.
understand that. But still got to get water to the tower.
Will it
Yes.
also in the future have another pump water which we can pump water to the tower?
Yes, exactly. The Perkins Road pump station can pump up Perkins Road along 56 to the tower. If the district, worst case, were to say we're going to shut off that line so you can't use it, it shuts themselves off too. So that would not make sense.
Do they have any other water supply? If they shut themselves off,
They have.
Not enough.
They have wells, but they have been buying water, all the water they're pumping now through their temporary pump station to serve their customers they buy from us. And sorry, I sidetracked from your
My
question.
question was on easements. When the easements we're trying to obtain as part of this conversation tonight, are we coming back and going to have to buy more easements along Western between 56th and 44th in the future for another line? Or are the easements we're trying to obtain now looking forward for future projects also?
They are. This report does not.
That's fine. I'm talking about the documents.
But we're making reference to the Western Road Waterline project. We're obtaining easements on that 1.25 miles that will allow for this new line, and we won't need to come back for more easements in that area.
That's what I was,
Farther north on Western, we will.
well, yeah,
But not for this same area.
okay, that's what I was wanting to confirm.
Well, Mr. Mayor, with all that said, or
Do we have any other questions?
not this time, sir.
Okay.
With all of that fantastic discussion, I will move through.
Second.
Motion a second to approve, what was that, item B?
Sir,
Yes,
Adam B.
Item B on the consent docket.
I sure hope Vice Mayor's not right.
Okay, that is approved 4-0-1 with trustee Hopkins abstaining. Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, we don't have anything else on the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn SUA?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. And that is approved 5-0. We are adjourned.